Hey everybody, Ramagardi here, Bushwick Real Estate Services. Today is Friday, July 1st. I can't believe the first half of the year is already over. Just getting ready to ship this week's newsletter, and there are a couple super cool things in here I wanted to share with you, and it might be easier just to talk through. So I'm just going to run through it real quick. This is the newsletter we're just getting ready to ship right now. The biggest thing is we just pulled a bunch of data, and we have a new stat we're calling seller sentiment, and that's kind of what the lead is this week. So as we look back in the first half of the year, we got some jokes in here like usual. Summer in Seattle starts on July 5th, and it's definitely looking like this will hold true this year. So we had a very, very rainy 4th of July coming up. But anyway, this metric that we're talking about, seller sentiment is what we're calling it. This is the percent of offers, the percent of listings that have an offer review date. So what we did is we went back over the last year and a half and pulled a ton of data, and we looked at every listing that had a published offer review date. And what that means is that the seller is confident that they're going to get an offer or more on the offer review date. So it's sort of like an auction. Over the last 18 months, that's been hovering around 50 to 60%. As we started out 2022 and buyers were totally frantic, there was nothing for sale, everyone was worried rates were going to be going through the roof. We saw tons and tons of bidding wars, and more listings had offer review dates. We got up to a high over 70%. Since then, we have plummeted down to 19%. So we're down 71% of listings that have offer review dates. What that tells us is that sellers are getting worried about the market. They're not expecting multiple offers. They're not expecting any offers within that first week. So we're going to be getting into a little bit more of a balanced market. We still are seeing tons of bidding wars in the field. So homes in good neighborhoods, on good streets, good houses, all that stuff are still seeing bidding wars. We were in one of those this week in Ravenna. Homes on busy streets and homes with other issues are not moving as quick though. So that was the main new metric that we got. I wanted to share with you and give you a little explanation. The other one I want to jump into real quick is pricing. So we're hearing tons of stories about price drops, home prices coming down, and all kinds of gloom and doom in the news. And so what we did here is we looked at the original listing price, the current listing price, and then the sold price. And so the blue line is the original listing price. The orange line is the current listing price. And we can see for all of 2021, those numbers are almost identical, meaning that there were very few price drops. So a price drop would manifest itself in the orange line deviating from the blue line. And so we do see that happen in the summer, last summer. Summers are always slower, but we do see a lot more of that happening in the second half of the spring as rates were going through the roof. The gray line is sold, and so the sold numbers are still well above all of the listing price numbers, but we do start seeing a little bit of wonky data coming in May and June, and that's because this data is sorted by listing price, not selling price. But for the most part, home prices are still up, way up from last year. So even if we do see a decline, we're coming off a very recent maximum, as still way up from last year. And actually, to that point, just going back up a little bit at the top here, the only news this week is Case-Shiller came out, which we know is just really old data, not worth talking about. But the media this week was like, oh no, home price growth is starting to slow in April. Sounds super scary. Then they go on to say that national prices are up 20.4%, and Seattle prices are up 26% from April of this year to April of last year. What they're talking about is just the amount of that growth is a little bit smaller, but we're still talking over 20% growth year over year. And so that was in April. And then the other thing we dove into that's also an interesting metric is listings that are not selling. And so these are listings that were on the market and were either canceled, expired, or temporarily off market, or the sale fell through or something along those lines. That historically has been hovering around 6%. We've almost doubled that in the last couple months, and June doesn't count because those listings are too new. Again, this is data from the month it was listed. So the June data is only talking about listings that went on in June. Therefore, that percent number is going to be low. But otherwise, we're almost double in May of listings that were canceled. And typically what happens there is those get relisted at a lower price. So there's a little MLS secret trick that we can use. If we drop over 5% in price, we're able to cancel and relist as a new listing, and so that it shows up as a brand new listing for people that aren't paying close attention. All right, then other stuff in the newsletter we got this week, just talking about rates. They're down again a little bit. One thing we're seeing and we're working with our sellers is having our sellers buy the rate down for buyers. And what that does is it gets the buyer into a rate from a couple months ago. So for instance, we can see over here we're at about 5.75 right now. We can get you back down into the fours by having the seller buy that rate down for you. And that's a better deal for everyone because it gets you a lower monthly payment as a buyer, and it gets you as the seller more money at the sale price. So it's a win-win. And then finally, just our usual fun notes from the field. Listings are down this week, obviously heading into the holiday. We toured an awesome house in Madison Park last night next to one of our clients. Lisa gave us an awesome review. She has one of my favorite listing photos, giving us the peace sign, and then notes, and then we'll be hosting Bainbridge Pride in a couple weeks here. Hope to see you there. All right, thank you. Have a great weekend. Happy 4th of July. Stay safe.